So I'm here with Chuck and Stephen from this brilliant short comedy, That's Opportunity Knocking. Stephen is one of the main actors in it.
Yes.
And Chuck is the esteemed filmmaker. No, the filmmaker.
Filmmaker is my favorite term. Yeah.
Okay, filmmaker.
I wrote and directed it.
You wrote and directed it. Based on a true story? It is,
Yes.
isn't it?
It is,
Yes.
indeed.
And who wants to give me the lowdown, the story behind, or what this film is actually about?
I can tell you what it's about. So there was a actor who was in a project that Steve and I were involved in who told us a story about him living in New York and his, this is Thomas Annewald,
Yeah.
one of the actors, and he was an actor in a play that we were in, and he ended up playing himself in this movie. His story was about the time that he was living in New York with a couple other people, and the girl that was one of his roommates came home with him, and they noticed that the place had been tousled around a little bit, but it ended up not really bothering them. They went to bed, woke up the next morning, and the place had been burgled. So
Why they were there?
where a lot of people would hear this story and see mystery, I heard a comedy and envisioned the two burglars had to hide somewhere in the house.
Yeah. Which kind of the premise, so we shouldn't give, but
Yep.
it's that's the premise of the story, isn't it?
Yes.
In terms of that's the sort of running gag. I mean, obviously it's a lot more than that, but
Where did the burglars hide?
yeah.
How did they get out? When they get out, who do they run into? Which brings us to Mr. Stephen Foster, who plays one of the roommates, and that's all we'll say.
He's the best actor in the film by far.
Oh, well.
He's my favorite actor.
well.
Yeah,
You have to say
possibly
that.
of all time. I mean, and I'm not just saying that. There's something about, there's certain, I love Peter Sellers. I love Peter O'Toole, who's in a film at this festival by our friend Michael. Directed him in. I love Lucille Ball and Carol Burnett. All of those people just make me laugh, even to look at them. And even Peter Sellers, who in being there played a very serious actor. He's one of the best serious actors ever. And yet there's something about him, even in being there.
Which I think was his final film, wasn't it?
I think so.
I think it was too, and
I'm
it
not
was
entirely sure.
certainly
Someone
the
was
one.
like the fake president almost. Is that one? Or
Yeah.
He's a gardener, isn't he? That gets mistaken. I seem to remember.
He is the president's gardener.
Right.
And he is, it's not explained in the film, but he doesn't seem to have much sense.
Yeah.
But he ends up, through the Peter principle, rising to the top and being the presidential advisor, the closest advisor to the president. And he just keeps saying these nonsensical things that people think are profound.
Yeah.
And it ends up, there's a little hint at the end of the movie that he will be the next president.
No, he is a brilliant. I mean, he's one of my favourite actors. And then you juxtapose that with something like Doctor Strangelove, where he's playing 3 or 4 characters.
Yes.
Just magnificent. When Kubrick basically said, "Go and do what you need. Go and do what you like."
And he is.
So he's Strangelove, and he's a British captain, and he's just amazing in it.
Yeah.
And incredibly talented.
Right. And he has this ability to just fall into. There's a movie called The Party where he just falls into this character. You can see. I mean, it's Peter Sellers because he looks like Peter Sellers, but other than that, you wouldn't know it's him. And the more deeply he goes into a character, the more you laugh. And that's what Stephen does. The more deeply, when he's playing Stephen, he's still funny. Look at him. You just he's funny.
His face, isn't he?
Yeah, it isn't.
Amusing.
But a face like that, the deeper they go into the character, if they can really just live and not play the funny laugh, if they can really stay true to the character, then they make you laugh.
And what people won't realise is I've interviewed you two before, which is always a pleasure.
Yes, it is.
I think you've written. So what's happened in the last year or so? I know you've written a book on acting. Is that right?
I did. I wrote a book called Awakening the Actor Within, and it's sort of a book.
And how did that come about? I mean,
well, it came about because I have my own way that I act and the way I approach acting.
Yeah.
And this came about as sort of a self-healing for actors, like people who have been in the business and gotten banged up a bit or rejected or feel like they can't go on. It's sort of a self-help book for actors to help them to keep moving along their path.
Wow.
No matter what happens, or if something terrible happens, some little roadmap to go back to so they can get back on track and get their acting back, or pursue their dreams with more vigor than before. So it's sort of it came about because in my life a lot of painful things had happened in my career, and I've always had to keep myself on track, and I sort of kept notes of all that and put it into sort of a workbook for actors.
Well, that's wonderful, because the thing is, I mean, let's be honest about this, acting is a lot of knockbacks. You're
A
gonna
lot
get
of knockbacks.
95 or whatever the stat is, something incredible. And in fact, which I've often spoken about to actors, I wouldn't be in that profession because I don't think I could deal with the knockbacks, because you're going to get that most of the time. It's how you deal with that. So if there's anything out there that's refreshing and helps you deal with that, that's got to be a great thing.
Well, I think so, and I think it's a taboo topic, really, because a lot of people will say, "Oh, all you gotta do is be persistent, and you gotta." You know, there's a lot of stuff is like feel good, and just have positive thoughts, and those are wonderful. But what about when you don't feel that way? What
And it
about
can only
when
go on so long. You can only do that for so long as well. can't
right?
you?
I mean, what if the real shit hits the fan, or things like like for me, I was in a movie and it went completely over budget. There's chance that it might never get finished, and these things happen to actors, and they don't talk about them, they don't express it, and they go, oh well, it's just me. They take it personally, and a lot of times actors need to be a little bit more self-protective, a little bit more selective in who they hook up with and things they say yes to.
Yes, it's the decisions, isn't it?
Yes, it's the decision.
Don't say yes just
and
because
it's
you need
not
the work,
just
I guess.
it's not just film, being in lame films, or it's like who you're in business with, who your agent is. All those things can throw actors way off balance and way off track, and they forget that they're an integral part of their process, and they are the pivotal point of their own work. And that's what I try to tell actors. You are powerful, and you can say no to anything that's not in alignment with what you want to do as an actor. You've got to have the self-awareness enough to be able to say yes or no to certain things.
Because there's got to be roles that all actors and actresses are offered.
Yes.
Once in a lifetime, maybe, that's going to make them uncomfortable.
It's going to make them uncomfortable, but there's situations that make them uncomfortable.
Yeah, all situations, yeah.
That things that they do need to say no to. Agents that they need to say, get away from me, leave me alone. Or, you can't, I don't think in a career you can always say yes, and you can't always play nice. And I think a lot of actors, myself included, hurt themselves in catastrophic ways by playing nice, when they really need a bigger no button on them. No, I won't run around and go on lame auditions. No, I won't do that. Let me read the script. What are the details? What's the fine print? What is required of me? Big stars get that. They have agents around them that are their no.
Because they've got the power, I guess.
Well, yeah. I want the Winnebago. I want this many lines in my script. I want this much time to film it, So it's a complicated acting game. Acting is a very complex and difficult acting game. So that's what I chose to write about.
And when you finished the book, because is the book out now?
The book's out, yes, it's on Amazon.
So it must have been, God, I've never obviously written a book, but it must have been an amazing experience to put all this down on paper and then finally get it out there.
Well,
I don't know if it's a catharsis, I don't know the reason you did it, but, was it, what was the life changing might be the wrong way to describe it, but did it change something about you when you actually put pen to paper when you finished the book?
Well, yeah, it made me look at my own life and go, there were mistakes that I made because I wasn't taught in my school system in coming about being an actor that there are boundaries, and there to me, being in the performing arts is like a codependent and almost addictive thing, because you just have so much energy and so many things going, so many personalities, that sometimes it's hard to have boundaries and say no.
But you're gonna have them. You gotta have them.
And so even in filmmaking and any creative thing, I find that you have to have very clear boundaries and very strong knowledge of who you are. So the book made me, in my own life, understand that I have way more power than I've actually given myself credit for.
So has it must have made you, has to have made you reappraise how you approach the work that you're offered now. It's got to. I mean, that's part of the process of doing the book, of course.
Oh yeah.
So things you think you might have said yes to before, you're going to think very carefully now.
Since I've won awards for That's Opportunity Knocking as an actor, and this was my first time actually winning awards, because up until that time I'd only done theater, and in doing film, I found that I was actually able to win awards, and now people are coming to me and say, "Oh, I want you in my project." And my first thing is, okay, let me read the script, and second of all, what is offered to me?
Yeah.
Is it, how much is it paying? Not like how much is it paying.
No, I know what you mean. Yeah,
but
yeah.
what is it?
It's everything. It's all around,
and
yeah.
also vet people. What is your background? What have you done in the past? How much have you done? How much have you succeeded? Those are things I would have never even questioned or asked before. Now that's one of my main questions.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
No, really brilliant. Really interesting, actually. No,
Yeah.
really interesting. Because, of course, I didn't know about any of this when the last time we met, which was probably about a year ago. But obviously, things have happened very quickly, and this is now.
Yeah.
Well done. No,
Yeah.
that's great.
And the other thing I'll say about Stephen's book, which I don't know if you've given the title yet, it's Awakening the Actor Within.
Yeah.
Awakening the Actor Within.
Yes.
Did I get the title right? So it's when I read it, it's a very positive book. I mean, you're talking about, the kind of the things to watch now, but the thrust of the book really is go, is be, is do, is there. If there are no opportunities for you, create opportunities. Find project, make projects, and this is a huge part of the film festival circuit, and certainly what you guys are all about.
Yes.
Thank you.
And that would be impossible without organizations like yours. I just really give a lot of kudos to people, organizations like yours, people like you, people like us, that are creating a situation that's sort of outside the studio system where people are making good art. Yeah, I mean that's a lot of the positive of your book.
Yeah, absolutely.
Finding yourself.
No, I'm really intrigued by this because it's one of those things. I've interviewed, obviously, literally, I think it's about 800. I was trying to work it out the other day, and I've never come across anything like this. But it seems, like all great things, such an obvious thing to do. You know what I mean? Because obviously I speak to lots of actors and actresses, and you kind of think, oh, there must be so many traps to fall into, and then you dismiss that and think, yeah, I'm sure there is. But now that you explain it to me, and elaborating, you kind of think, well, it seems obvious that someone should write a book about this, because it's almost like a bear pit, the traps you can fall into. So why hasn't it been done before? It's bizarre. Because now, of course, you're bringing all the experience to the table, and because there'll be situations which I don't need to know about, which you kind of wish, maybe if I had a bit more experience, a bit older or whatever, I wouldn't have fallen into that trap. How can I stop other people falling into that trap? And it just seems like an obvious thing to me now.
And the trap of depression, the trap of quitting acting. I mean, a lot of times I think about his book, Awakening the Actor Within, as being reawakening the actor within, because a lot of people start as children as actors, and then they become actors. And then the book is a lot about finding that joy, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And it's also about rekindling the fire of why you want to do it, and what do you want to do? Because a lot of actors just go, I want to do everything. I want to do theater. I want to do sitcoms. I want to do commercials. And they're never really clear on what it is that they bring to the table and what they really want to do.
Yeah.
And that happened almost by accident with me, because I was nearly 40 before I ever started really acting in film. I'd only done theater and had written in theater, and then finally an opportunity came up to be in film, and then came the opportunity to be in film festivals like this one, and then it started this little movie that we made, That's Opportunity Knocking. Chuck and I took this film and we took it around to the film festivals. We started to finally get recognition for our work that the both of us had done for about 20 years prior to that, and having success, but not as much success as we knew we could have
Yeah.
In 99-seat theaters.
in 99-seat theaters, and even in film, because I was going around auditioning, getting in stuff, it not being put out. You know, what about actors who do that? Put your heart and soul into something, and it gets made, but the producer does nothing with it. You know,
That must be totally
what
soul
about
destroying.
those are heartaches for actors.
Yeah.
And then I've found that when I'm going to film festivals, I've learned that a lot of actors have their stuffing sort of pulled out of them, and they won't show up at film festivals.
What?
They won't use things to their advantage for the main. They won't put themselves out because there's like an undertow of shame in actors particularly, and I think of a lot of creatives who are like, well, I better just stay safe and stay in a box, and then I tell them, look at the new Superman or whatever movie they're bringing out. Look how much PR goes behind that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Look how much money goes behind that. Look how much, the latest actors out there promoting it on talk shows.
Yeah.
Look at all that goes into just that part of the acting. And a lot of actors just want to focus on auditions and being in stuff, and that's it. And they lose the second half of it, which is the business, the promotion, the marketing
Yeah.
of themselves.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I see it all the.
Do you?
Yeah, I see it all the time. I mean, yes, because often you'll speak to filmmakers. I don't know why I'm saying this quietly. I actually try and avoid this question because I kind of know the answer most of the time, which is you've made the film, brilliant. What have you done to promote it?
See?
They fall into the trap. Now I know that happens a lot with first-time filmmakers. I know it absolutely does. So you can't say, well, you know, that's a mistake, because it is a mistake, right?
It is.
It's a massive mistake because you've put everything into making this film, which
Everything.
is wonderful, but what are you doing to promote it?
Right.
Oh, wow, you know, we didn't think about that until we started coming to festivals. Right, okay, so you've got no marketing budget, you haven't thought about how you're PRing, you haven't thought about social media and Facebook and Instagrams and everything else. Not really. Oh, come on.
But I'm going to make the next film.
But I'm going to make
Why?
the next film.
Why?
Why? Why? Because what have you done to promote this one? So I
Right.
do try and avoid that, talking about it, because I know it's a trap a lot of them fall into. And I get why they fall into it, because they're so hell-bent on making a film, they will just do anything. They throw everything out of the kitchen sink, and then suddenly they've got this amazing project, but they're like, should have thought about that. Oh yeah, that's a great idea. I should be talking to you about this now. You should, you know, but on the other flip side, there's filmmakers that I know that made their film, this is rare though, that made their first film, but they've thought about that before they've even started storyboarding it or putting pen to paper. Or maybe they've done a script and then started thinking about it. But they're the exception to the rule, because most of them don't, if I'm honest. Most of them fall into the trap of making a film and trying to promote it. And you know,
And it's so funny you say it's a topic that I avoid. See,
Yeah.
and that's why I wrote my book, because
talk
it's
about
a
it.
topic
Yeah,
that
you
a
should,
lot
yeah.
of people avoid.
yeah.
You know, in acting schools, you know, you're not taught what are you great at. Really focus on what you're great at as an actor,
yeah.
and market that and make something out of it instead of just, you know, one of the first books I read when we were putting this movie into film festivals was called Your All Access Pass to Film Festivals. And the quote that I pulled from that book, she said, getting the film in the can, that's hard. But the other part, once it's in the can, marketing and getting the
Getting
word
it out there.
getting the word out about
Yeah.
the film, that's even harder.
Yeah, it is. It's extremely difficult.
And
How-
that's where the work begins. That's what
Yeah.
she said. That's when the real work begins.
She's absolutely right, and yeah, again, I do avoid talking about it, and the reason is because I know it's very obvious to me, because I've worked in marketing. Talking to someone about it post them making the film is you're kind of like sticking the knife in a bit, because it's almost like saying, how did you not think about that? You know, because it is going to be a tough thing for them to swallow. You know, so well, what did you do? Oh, well, I didn't. Oh, okay. But to me, because I work in marketing and PR, and I've not done this but other stuff, I will be thinking, yeah, I want to make the film, but actually what we put into the budget for the marketing, and how are we going to do the marketing? Who's doing the marketing? Who are we getting in to do the Facebook and the social media and the Twitter and everything else? I'm doing it, yeah, I'm happy to do that, because then we have a structure in place and a core in place, and you build upon that. Then we're going to make the film, and we know that there's a way to do it in such a way that we've built it, we're getting it out there, but cranking up with all that, snowballing is all the social media and the marketing stuff. So I kind of avoid it because I don't want to put filmmakers on the spot. Now, by the second film, they've often sussed that, you see.
See?
But the first film, they're diving in blind.
And it's interesting because your background in marketing, you can probably speak to the ludicrousness of coming out with a jar of peanut butter or a skateboard and not thinking about marketing it. I mean, you can make the best peanut butter in the world.
Of course you can, yeah.
And, I mean, right?
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. I mean, everything I agree with. I mean, I've been asked on a personal level by filmmakers saying, "Oh, Steve, would you help us do some marketing and that?" And the truth is, I'd love to, but I haven't got the time to do it because I could say to them, "Well, okay, this is quite simple. Let's start with social media. What budget have you got?" And then that's the other thing. I know it's happened. I was saying to them, "Oh, yeah, well, perhaps you can help us. We haven't actually got any budget." Christ, I can't help you. You need to have a small amount of. We need to think about this, but so I do avoid it, and I know it's an easy trap to fall into, but also know like I said earlier, they put the heart and soul into this. The last thing you want to do is pull the rug from under their feet. So but you're in a better position to talk about it because you've lived the nightmare. You've been through whatever situation. So you writing it down is you're more of an expert on this than I am. I'm simply saying what you should do before you make the film, whereas you're sort of going, you need to have your eyes wide open if you want to get into acting, because these are the traps you can fall into, right?
Well,
yeah,
Well, nowadays you go for an audition, and right on the audition sheet it'll say, what is your Facebook handle? What is your Twitter handle? What is your Instagram? How many followers do you have? And
before you even walk in there,
because they know, hopefully, what they want out of you is not only a performance, they also want you to do the social media and the marketing
You've
stuff
got to drummed it up,
of behind your film. And what I've found that, one, producers who call themselves producers or directors who call themselves directors don't do that work. They don't want to do that work.
No.
They just want to have the film out there. Isn't that nice? I made a film. Isn't that cute? Well, yeah, but that's not going to get you anything more than a jar of peanut butter.
How are you going to get the word out there?
And actors, they're like, well, why should I go out and promote my film? Why should I go to those film festivals? Why should I do that? They miss the point that
because you're in the film.
You're
in the film.
Yeah, and that's actually what changed. What changed my career, Steve, is I got into a little indie film. It was not this one. It was a feature film. And we got into a very prestigious film festival. Well, after that, the director said, well, I'm going to go make my next thing, put all my eggs into that, and ignored the one that was actually getting some momentum behind it.
So who's promoting this film then? Well, you're dropping this like a hot potato,
yeah,
right?
and I was at the film festival getting all this recognition and stuff, and then the next year, flat as a pancake.
We were walking into bars at this film festival, and heads would turn. I literally felt like I was walking around with a Hollywood celebrity, because in the world of just like around here, but in the world of a film festival, the bars that you go to that night, the people that have seen those films during the day have seen a bunch of stars that day.
Yeah.
And then they go out and have a drink, and sometimes the stars walk into the bar, and it's a little microcosm of what happens in the real world in film. And it was fun.
Yeah.
It was really fun. We have so much fun at every film festival we've ever been to.
Yeah. And I think that's the importance of indie film. And I believe if you're gonna do an indie film and you're gonna put your heart and your soul and your money, or anyone's money into something, you gotta get out there and you gotta market it. You gotta get out
and
there.
It's so many things that are connected to what we do. It's all about the marketing. It's all about the social media, and it's all about getting the word out there, It is.
We went to a seminar and they were talking about P&A. It was about a seminar on producing in Hollywood. And someone had asked a question about the old school way of marketing, putting half the budget into marketing, and how much of payback would you get in box office because of that. And they got to talking about social media, and one of the panelists said, somebody just recently did a study, and I don't remember the numbers, but X number of Twitter followers will translate to X number of dollars in box office.
So if you've got 1 million followers, which would be lovely, wouldn't it?
Right.
You're going to get back on $100
$1 million
yeah,
or whatever.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I think it was something like that, something ridiculous, like $1 per follower. And they've done study. Well, I don't remember the exact number.
That sounds good though, doesn't it? Dollar per follower.
We all went. There was sort of a pause, and then there was like a in the audience because none of us had done the work, and we were all sitting there going, "Oh, I'm not going to bother with that." Oh, yeah, that's exactly what you're going to bother with if you want to succeed.
Yeah, fall into the trap. So what's happening now in terms of? I know this is out there, and again, you're promoting it, going to the festivals, and the book, of course. But what else is going on? What have you got on the back burner, other than that, Chuck?
Oh, Stephen and I write together, and then he also writes his own projects, and he has other people he writes with, and so do I. But we've got a feature film, a children's film that we're going to write together.
Comedy.
Yeah, and I'm probably going to direct it. Yeah, everything. I've sort of made the decision that everything that I will do is comedy because for a lot of reasons. But number one, because I think in my life, if I first do something, I learn a lot doing it, and if I switch, I have to start over again.
Oh yeah.
So I feel like if I all of a sudden do a documentary, I won't do a better documentary than my last film. But since my last film was a comedy, I've learned a lot. And the next one will be better, and the one after that will be better because I've learned what to do and what not to do. So so I'm probably going to direct a comedy short, and Stephen has a role in that.
Well, he's a pretty good actor, you know.
I'm all right. Might as well keep me. I do promote it.
And I do like writing for actors that writing specific roles for actors, but not pigeonholing them. Like I'm trying to think of an example of an actor that doesn't really get to act, like an Adam Sandler, who doesn't really get to act much because
he's playing Adam Sandler.
And every role for him is like, oh, I need a script for Adam. Some agent somewhere is going, I need another script for Adam Sandler, and some writer's going, hey, here's a script for Adam Sandler. Well, the problem with that is that script is going to be the same Adam Sandler that we've seen 100 times.
Yeah.
If we didn't like him the first time, we're not going to like him now. Whereas, compare that to Peter Sellers.
Oh, he's a comedian.
Who you can take any two Peter Sellers films and put them next to each other. And if it's not like the Peter Panther sequels is an exception, but I mean all the, Alice B. Toklas, all of the films he's ever done, little films, small films, he is always completely different.
Oh yeah, it's funny because I was thinking of two Kubrick films. There's Dr. Strangelove, put it next to Lolita, where he's a slimy photographer, serious role. You're like, wow, this guy can, and he's really creepy in the film.
Yes.
He was a brilliant actor, and yeah.
So I think you can write for actors in either way. And Christopher Guest is a good example of a writer-director that always uses the same actors, but boy, oh boy, he makes them stretch.
Yeah.
Michael McKean, who I worked with in a play, and he was, of course, Michael McKean is wonderful in everything he does, but I just got to see him work while we were in production on that play, and just him develop a character. I could kind of see how the Christopher Guest characters work, because they don't just fall into Ed Begley Jr., all those guys, Christopher Guest himself, they don't just fall into their characters. You can see that character evolve.
Yeah, they work.
This little tick, that little Catherine O'Hara, she develops that little thing, and then it becomes a completely different character than it was in the last film. That's like the characters I like to write for a specific person, but a different thing than they've ever done.
Brilliant. Well, that's it, guys. 30 minutes.
That's it?
30 minutes.
God, that
Can you believe it?
faster
Fantastic.
than the hookers in the red light district.
So I'm told.
I wouldn't know.
Brilliant.
They wouldn't let me in.